All right, Spyder, thanks for having the time to talk a bit about your life and the music. Yeah, so glad you could make it.
Okay.
So maybe
Who
everything.
got caught in my chest a little bit?
So maybe you can tell about how you got into the music at first, your use and how you got into the music biz.
Okay. I was, I've been singing since I could talk. And when I was a kid, 4 and 5 years old, whenever my parents had company, they bring me out to sing peace and ballads. And so they would always give me nickels and quarters to sing. So that's how the whole thing started.
Okay.
I like buying all that candy with them quarters because we had a lot of penny candy back then. So, but that's how I started. Basically, how I started.
And you were born in Detroit.
I was born in Beckley, West Virginia,
There you go.
in the mountains, hillbilly country.
And what made you move to Detroit?
I moved to Detroit. I was about 5 because we left West Virginia and we moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, and we lived in Cincinnati for a year, and then we moved to Detroit. My father worked on the railroad, sorting mail, so his route was Detroit to West Virginia and back and forth. So he got a chance to see Detroit, and after we stayed in Cincinnati a year, we moved to Detroit.
All right. Now,
And what really made me start singing was I used to come into class singing all the time. And my teacher tried to embarrass me. He said, "Mr. Turner, you like to sing? Come and stand in front of the class and sing." So I did. And I sung Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Yeah. The class clapped and everybody went crazy. And I said, from now on, that's what I'm doing. And then I saw Jackie Wilson on TV and Elvis Presley, and I was hooked then.
Wow.
I wasn't going to change.
Okay, my friend, finish.
Done.
Yours, okay.
Okay.
Do you like coffee or tea or anything? Nothing?
No, gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's delicious.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Oh,
Ay, sorry. Sorry, excuse me, please. Yes.
gracias. So, how did you get to your first record contract then, or your first record?
I was singing with a singing group. Our first stop was at Cha-Tok Records,
Who owned that?
Charles Stokes. And that's where I did You're Alone. What was on the other side of that?
Happy story.
Happy Story. My Trouble's Over. By the way, Eddie Kendricks wrote a Happy Story
Oh, there you
from
go.
the Temptations, but he couldn't put his name on it because he was with Motown.
So you
course.
sold that to Mr. Stokes.
No, they paid for everything.
All right.
They paid for the studio time, and we went in and did it. And that was the first time I went on TV, but we didn't get any airplay. So I went to New York. I was 16 then. I went to New York and following a group called the Stereophonics. And they were playing the Apollo, so my manager at that time got me on the amateur hour, the amateur portion of Chicago,
Talent show?
the talent show. Yeah. So I won. I won first prize.
Wow.
And that's when we talked to Bobby Robinson, and we went in and did My Trouble's Over, and I got to get myself together. And after that, I went back to Detroit. Wasn't really getting anywhere with Charles Stokes. So I found a band called the Fabulous Counts, and we started playing together. And
So you played with the Fabulous Counts.
they were my band.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's when I developed Stand By Me. Because I was a great big fan of Chuck Jackson's. Matter of fact, I thought I was Chuck Jackson. I did all his songs. I go to the 20 grand, and they knew I was going to sing Chuck Jackson. So, which is, by the way, one of his songs is the one I won the contest at the Apollo with.
Which one? You remember?
I Don't Want to Cry.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. At the end of the song, I was doing splits and flips and all that kind of stuff. So I won. But with the Counts, we were at the 20 Grand one night, and Clay McMurray came into the 20 Grand. And back then, like I said, Chuck Jackson, I idolized Chuck Jackson. And he had an album called Chuck Jackson, I think it was Chuck Jackson Live on Tour, or Chuck Jackson Live at the Apollo. And on that album, he did Please, Please, Please by James Brown. But he impersonated James Brown and Jackie Wilson. So then I took that part and another little part where he sung Stand By Me and developed Stand By Me, and I was singing it like 2 years before I recorded it.
Wow.
And it was like my showstopper. So every time I would do it, I'd try to add more and more people. I was just doing it for fun.
That's why you're having that song, all these artists.
Right. I was just doing it for fun.
Interesting. Great.
So he said, man, you need to record that. Well, I was 17 at the time. I didn't really know who to talk to about it. So 2 weeks later, he came back and he bought a guy from MGM's promotional department, Cliff Goroff, and he brought this guy who had a TV show in Lansing. The TV show was called Swing Lively. And he brought them back, and they agreed with him, yeah, man, that ought to be cut right now. So the next thing I know, I'm in the studio recording. And I recorded it the same way I do it on stage. And they edited and took out some and left some in. And Stand By Me came out. The first week alone, it sold 10,000 copies in Detroit.
Impressive.
In the first week. So it was off and running after that. My whole life changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's get back a few years earlier, if you don't mind, Spyder. After Cha-Tok, you went with Fortune Records, right?
With Fortune Records, right.
How did this came about?
But I wasn't signed to Fortune, but my friend, a guy named Bill Craig, and Loke Davis, and one of their friends was Nathaniel Mayer. So they wrote this song about my friend Loke's car. Loke had this beautiful 1965 Buick Deuce and a quarter. Well, they called it Electra 225, but we called it Deuce and a quarter. You know, and if you're sophisticated, you're gonna say it wrong. It's Deuce and a quarter. So Nate and Loke wrote the song, and Nate knew the people. He was already signed with Fortune Records, so we went over to Fortune and recorded it. But nothing ever happened with it. It wasn't released until after Stand By Me.
All right, that's interesting.
So we did it before Stand By Me, a couple of years.
Yeah, because it sounds so much earlier.
Right, yeah.
And on the other side, there is kind of instrumental, Mr. One Stop, or One Stop Just?
Yeah, something like that. I never knew what the other side was because I only sung one song.
All right, I thought that would have been maybe the Fabulous Counts, but it wasn't.
No, it was the, what was their name? Oh, they were like the Fortune Records band.
All right.
Yeah.
Something like the house band, the studio band.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. So we went in and did it. And like I said, they didn't release it till after Stand By Me.
All right.
But I don't think they really had enough money for promotion and stuff like that, so it didn't go anywhere. So I thought, until I realized that over here on this side of the ocean that everything is different. Stuff that I didn't think people had heard, been played and heard and danced to, and people had partied off of it and had a great time. So everything's different. You never can just look at one thing one way. You got to open up for other areas or other things happening instead of just one thing.
Yeah.
So. But after that, after Stand By Me, I went on the road. I played the Apollo. I went back to the Apollo and played the Apollo for a week. So that made me an Apollo legend because I went and won the contest, and I came back a couple of years later with a hit record. So that made me a Apollo legend.
Yeah. Because you were the living proof of concept, so to say.
Right.
If you make it at the Apollo, you make it everywhere.
You make it everywhere.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
Great. And later on, you went to record with one Mickey Stokes.
Excuse me, sir. Your lace is undone before you get up.
Oh, okay. Thank
The
you.
other thing is, I know your face from somewhere.
Spyder Turner.
Remind me.
Stand By Me. I can't make it anymore.
But he still can't. So,
Excuse us for that little interruption, okay?
fans everywhere. So you went to record with Mickey Stokes.
Mickey Stokes was Charles Stokes' wife.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we went to school together, and she was the one that introduced me to Charles.
Oh.
Yeah. So actually, after I left Cha-Tok, Charles put her name on the record.
Ah.
But it was really the Stereophonics that was backing me up.
So it's no Mickey Stokes at all.
Was her with the group Stereophonics. She sung with the Stereophonics.
But it's not you.
It's me.
It's you as well.
It's me as well.
All
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right. So this record more or less not really made it, did it?
Never made it.
No, because it's very rare these days.
Yeah.
It
yeah,
is.
It is. It really is. And I haven't heard the other side in a couple of decades.
Wow.
My trouble's over, which was the side I liked better than the I got to get myself together.
So why did you like that side more?
It was more bluesy, more down homey to me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But Charles, he put her name on it. But like I said, she was singing with the Stereophonics, so it was like push her vocal up and say, okay, she's one of the lead singers too. Because I had left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking back, what would you say? What are the main impressions that last till today for you from those days in Detroit and the soul music business back then?
Being on the show with so many artists, because I kind of just loved them all. You know, I was impressed by all the artists I ever met, and following in their footsteps. You know, like I used to live with Eddie Kendricks. You know,
You used to live with him?
Yeah.
Wow.
In a big old house in Detroit. Me and a few other artists, we all stayed in the same house.
When was that?
That was 1964.
Till?
Yeah.
Till when?
Till had to be 65.
Wow. Who else was living there with you?
Michael Stokes,
Wow.
great producer for Enchantment and a few other people. Matter of fact, Michael played piano for me when I did the Apollo for the amateur album.
All right.
Yeah. So that was funny because he was nervous. I was nervous. My knees were shaking, and I'm wondering, can anybody see this? And I'm waiting on him to play, and his knees are shaking, and I'm like, Mike. And finally, he's kicked it off. And then Choker Campbell. Anyway, the Apollo band, big band. First time I ever sang with a big band. They jumped right in because they knew it because they played behind Chuck Jackson all the time. So we turned it out, and when I heard the first woman scream, I said, oh, I'm at home at the 20 grand. We getting busy now.
Great story. So then you were with MGM.
MGM came in with the Stand By Me. Like I said, Cliff Goroff, he was a promotion guy for MGM. The guy that Clay introduced me to. So that's when I signed with MGM. My manager at that time, he was the guy that ran the TV show in Lansing. And so he and Cliff got together and he got me hooked up with MGM. It's been, the rest is history.
The rest is history. But history wasn't ending for you then because you went on to bigger things even.
Yeah.
So how that came about?
That came about, I was, a friend of mine was moving to California and she wanted somebody to help her drive. So I was tired of Detroit. I had been in a gunfight with no gun and people shooting and all kind of stuff. So my baby brother and I, we drove her out to California. And when I got out there, this is the funny part. Before I went, my wife and I are sitting in the movie watching Car Wash.
Car Wash?
Was it Car Wash? Yeah, it had to be Car Wash. And she leaned over to me and she said, you know, I had a dream that you went to California and became Norman Whitfield's partner. So to go back to the drive, we drove to California. When I got there, we slept on the floor because she had her brother was there, And they had a 2-bedroom apartment, so my brother and I, we just stayed on the floor. I went up to Whitfield Records to see Clay McMurray because he was working with Whitfield. And he wasn't there.
Gee.
So I went up, and while I'm sitting in the office waiting to see Clay, Norman comes out the back. And the first thing he asked me was, I still arrogant? Because I had met him before, and we kind of fell out over a song. I think it was He Who Picks a Rose. I wouldn't sing it the way he kept trying to get me to sing it. You know, I was like, I don't sing like that. You know, but
Why did he want you to sing it? In what context?
it was going to be a, well, he told me it was going to be a demo for The Temptations.
All right.
Yeah. But we couldn't agree on it, so we wound up having a couple of drinks and arguing a bit, and I left. So I was like, you're not gonna talk to me any kind of way.
But he did.
But he did. He did everybody like that. I seen him make grown men cry in the studio.
There was one funny story you told me before, where he tried to get a demo fixed, which he couldn't for weeks and weeks, and you managed in quite a short time, if I remember correct.
Oh yeah, he was dubbing in The Undisputed Truth, and the girl at that time, her name was Ella, and so Whitfield I guess he got frustrated, and he took the wand and he threw it in my lap and said, "You dub her in." He had been trying to dub her in for a couple of days. He said, "You dub her in," and left. So I dubbed her in 2 hours.
Wow.
So Monday came, and I went in the studio in the office, and I played the song for him. And while the song is playing, he gets on the phone. And I'm thinking in my head, now this is awful rude, because I know this is good. And when the song ended and he got off the phone, he told me, "Go up to the Cadillac dealer and pick you out one."
Fabulous.
So I stayed with Whitfield for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 very successful years for you as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, writing and...
Writing, that's where I really
Yeah.
started writing.
Yeah.
You put me in a situation and I kind of adapt to it. You know, so being around all those writers started me to writing. And that's when I wrote Do You Dance for Rolls Royce.
Which went on to be a really big
Big
record.
smash, yeah. So he produced the first album on me, but he was trying out all the writers that was on his staff. So I was doing songs by all of his writers. And the second album, we kind of got into a little argument about it because I told him I wanted to go in and record myself. And he was like, "You're not going in the studio, wasting my money, wasting my musicians, and wasting my studio time to come up with some bullshit."
But that was after you already wrote those hit
It
records.
was already after I wrote Do You Dance. Yeah. So we came back, I guess, after that weekend, and he acted like I never told him that. And he said, "I hear you got some songs. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 3 hours a day for a week. Let's see what you come up with." At the end of the week, I had the whole album done, except for the strings and horns. And when I played it for him, he said, scratched his head, he said, "Those are the most elaborate demos I ever heard in my life.
Wow.
Who do you want for horns and strings?" I said, "Give me Gene Page." "Give me the best." So, and that's when I did the Only Love album. But that came along the time he and Warner Brothers parted ways, so that album just got lost.
All right.
Yeah. Never got promoted.
But it's still amongst your favorite albums?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is my favorite.
It is
Yeah.
number one for you.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Had some nice songs on that album. Although this 4-song EP I got out right now ain't bad at all.
Where can we find those?
That'll be on iTunes, and I put it on CD Baby, and then CD Baby distributes it to different music download sites.
Okay.
So it's on iTunes and about 30 other download sites.
Say the title again, maybe?
Spyder Turner.
Spyder Turner.
Self-titled.
Thanks a lot, Spyder, for your time
Thank you.
and those interesting stories. It was more than a pleasure.
Oh,
it was I can say, dream come true to meet you and speak to you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the lunch. It was great.
Great stuff.
Looking forward to seeing everybody, okay?